out that only Hugh can prevent florist fryers. It just takes a while to get there.
There's a lot to remember to get into that.
I know. And
Give you credit for trying.
thank you very much. All right, so I like to start off with a fun topic, and that's pet peeves. Things that just really grind your gears. I'll start. Do you know what really grinds my gears? Is when people try to talk to me while they're brushing their teeth. I don't know if you ever had this. Usually it's going to be someone in your own household, but like I cannot explain enough how strongly I feel that brushing your teeth should be like a solo activity. I think like it's like if you're going to the bathroom, like using the toilet, that's a solo activity. You close the door, you do it by yourself. But when, let's be honest, it's my wife who she'll like give me like directions like and just like toothpaste like all over the mouth and dribbling drops. And I think what it does, it takes me back to like my childhood. My stepdad was a big toothbrusher, talker kind of guy, and I would always get these directions while just disgusting saliva and toothpaste was dribbling down his face. And it just, for whatever reason, it's just like my ultimate pet peeve. Do you have any pet peeves, Chris? I want to get to know you.
Yes. I mean, I don't like that either because it's impossible to talk when you have a toothbrush and stuff in your mouth. But yeah, either, wife or kids especially asking you questions in the morning if they're trying to get ready for school. And, it's just, look at them like, hey, give me a minute. Like, I'm doing something right now.
Yes.
Like, give me a minute. So I'm with you on that.
It's terrible.
I experienced one just the other day that is probably my number one. And it's just the simplest thing in the world to me. And I think it, in a sense, can like pretty much tell you if a person is a good person or more than likely an awful human being.
I can't wait.
It's just putting your grocery cart back at the grocery store in one of the little carousels.
I can't stand it. Have you ever seen there's a YouTube channel called Cart Narcs?
No.
Oh, that's what it's just these group of dorks that go out and they get people on camera who leave their carts out and just kind of shame them into putting their cart back. But I agree. I can't think of anything. It's just
when I'm by myself, like, I mean, now you have to be so cautious with everybody in the world, but so I won't do this when I'm with my kids or family. But like when I'm by myself, if I see somebody do it, if I'm in that kind of spicy mood that I see them not going to put it back, I will call them out and be like, oh, excuse me, like, do you need help? Do you need me to take that 20 feet over there for you so the worker who's getting paid, minimum wage doesn't have to fetch your cart for you? Yeah. I can be that person.
Yeah. So. Dude, that's awesome. Call people out on their shit. And I think that's exactly right. The people's main arguments is like, well, they pay people to put them away. But I think like when people leave their carts out, there's like levels to it. Now that I'm thinking about it, there's the person that will like just kind of jimmy it on like the curb so it doesn't go anywhere. But then there's like probably the worst of the worst, people who just leave them in the middle of the parking space.
In between the parking spaces left and the front, and then it could hit one of the cars a little bit or keep somebody from parking in that spot afterwards. Yeah. I'm sitting there, if there's, at the store I go to, they have the one side for the small carts, one side for the larger ones. I'm like taking out the larger ones out of the small spot, putting them in the right spot. Like, simplest thing.
Yeah. I think that says more about you as a good person. Well, that's still a shitty thing. So if you happen to be listening and you're the type that doesn't care to return your cart, think twice. Think twice. It's not just a thing to do for society. It's just do the right thing. Yeah. That's what it comes down to. It's just like little things really do add up. Yeah. And it's not
to leave a place just a little better.
Just leave it a little better. Yeah. One thing that I got from Emily, my wife, who from the gym, but when we first started dating, I noticed that if we're walking into a store or whatever, and she sees like a piece of trash on the ground, she'll pick it up and throw it away. Yep. And I'm like, man, I never thought to do that. And this was like COVID times, like early COVID times when you didn't want to touch anything. She would go right at it. She would take it and put it in the trash. And I can't say that I always do that, but I do it probably 500% more than I used to. It's like never, but now it's like, if I see something and it's not too gross, like, I'm not going to
Somebody's leftover food.
Yeah, I'm not gonna throw away someone's food or gum, but yeah, if it's like a bottle or paper or something like that, it's just all about mentality. And I think if you are not used to doing things like that and you start doing things like that, it not only benefits everyone else, but like there's something in you. I believe there's something in you that hears that sees that, like, oh, they're doing good, you're doing the right thing when no one's watching.
Yep.
Man, that's, to me, I've heard integrity defined like that. Like, integrity is doing the right thing when no one's watching.
Yeah.
Or like, we don't rise to the expectations of others. We fall to the expectations we set in ourselves. It's like, man, there's some really good, juicy stuff out there.
Yeah. For
all the garbage, there's a lot of good stuff. Yeah. But we're talking about pet peeves, and this is a little personal, but hey, that's what we kind of do here. I use a bidet. For whatever reason, I could get into it. I don't have to. It's like the only commercial that's ever worked on me. It was actually Steve-O's podcast, Steve-O from Jackass. Yeah. And he has the ability, or had, I don't listen to it much anymore, but he's awesome. But anyways, the point is, he was selling this bidet, and it's the first time where I'm like, I need a bidet. And the example he used was like, if you get a piece of like food on the floor, something that's like chocolate, he uses as an example, you're not going to just take like a dry paper towel and wipe it off. You're going to need some wetness and like wet it and like rinse it out. And it was a perfect visual for me, as gross as it is. So fact of the matter is, I use a bidet, and I had a funny story. And yesterday, Emily is so funny. In preparation for this podcast, like, not only did she do like a big, massive deep clean.
Oh yeah.
Like, the toilet seat in our one bathroom, the bolt that holds it in place broke. So it was very flimsy. Like, there's two bolts that hold it in place. So we go to Home Depot, and I'm like, let's just get 2 new toilet seats, because it's been a while since we've changed out the other one too, the one that I have the bidet on. And so yesterday we get home, and I reinstall. I take out the old toilet seat. I reinstall the new one over the bidet, and all good. Well, this morning I go into the bathroom to do my business, and it's not working. The bidet's not working. So my pet peeve is having to go to the bathroom like an animal and not have my superior bidet in there. But what happened was, it wasn't working. So I did it the old-fashioned way. And then I got done, and I went to look at the bidet, and I'm like fiddling with it. I'm like cleaning it off. And of course I washed my hands, and I've showered since then. So I'm not like, covered in poop or nothing, but I went to test it. But I went to test it when I was standing right in front of it, and it just sprayed all over me, and I got just covered it. I mean, it's just water.
It's
from
clean water, but you still think like, oh, it's bidet water.
It's from the toilet, yes. So that was just my morning, my fiasco of a morning. And then Emily was like, I think vacuuming, and I just stood in front of her, eyes wide. I go, look what happened. And so, yeah. But I know ahead of time, I asked you to bring a pet peeve if you have any. Was that, so you said the shopping carts is number one. Did you happen to have anything else that you wanted to?
I've got driving ones, but I think everyone has those.
Yeah. Driving has the ability to like I'm usually pretty calm. Driving, whatever it is, it has the ability to
I drive very different with family in the car versus when I'm driving solo for that reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there more 4-letter words involved?
Not even that. It's just more of like my actions. Like somebody, I'm driving down, regular road, Ford Road, and somebody pulls out like right in front of me in my lane, and there is nobody in the other lane they could have gone in, and there's nobody behind me. So then it causes me to have to hit my brakes, slow down type of thing. And it's one of my big ones. And then with the family in the car, I'll just slow down, whatever, it happened, no biggie. Without them in the car, I'll whip around to the other lane, whip back into the lane in front of them, slam on my brakes, like type of thing, and then go off and enjoy the rest of my day.
Yeah, for sure. Tit for tat. I hate that too. Like I feel like unwritten rules, and that's one of them. making me stop when you don't have to. Like
Yeah.
if you just pull out totally oblivious, all willy nilly. And also too, if there's like nobody behind me,
Just inconveniencing somebody
Yes.
else
Oh,
when
yeah.
you don't have to.
exactly,
So.
exactly. So, but I wanted to get into your job a little bit, just out of curiosity, because I have this thing. I don't know if I'm the only one. I feel like there was a day in school, one day, where they explained to everybody what all the jobs are, and I just like happened to miss that day. So like I hear all these job titles, and like I'm in, kind of like the corporate industry, so I'm starting to learn a little bit, but like data analysis, VP,
Yes.
director of executive, blah blah, blah, and I don't know what that means. So I'm gonna say, explain it to me like I'm an 8-year-old. What do you do as a job?
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot because my previous role, I've been in my current role for about 3 years now, but my previous job that I held for 10 years, for 10 years, my wife had no clue what I did.
Right.
And so like people would ask and she would just kind of say something along the lines of what I would tell her. But like if I sat her down and said, explain to me what I've done for the last 10 years of my life that I've told you about, all my stories and all the years and everything, and she would not be able to do it. So I like explaining it that way. But my current role is I work at DTE as a principal account manager. So what that means is I have customers, all industrial, so businesses, nothing residential. So I'm sorry if your power goes out, I cannot help you. A lot of people ask me that, and I feel bad about that.
Yeah.
But it's all commercial businesses, and I have a portfolio of about 450 customers that I manage. So it's a big aspect of customer service.
Okay.
There's a big aspect of sales where we have a lot of stuff that we try to push, like EV charging or clean energy usage, lighting, things like that. So it's meeting with them and talking about things like that. Also, anytime I have a property where they're either building a new business on it or upgrading their facility, I am managing the construction of that through DTE that they're doing as well.
Whoa. Okay. So I get the gist. Couple questions.
Yeah.
When you say 450 like industrial accounts, and those are typically businesses, not households, but businesses, are they big corporate businesses or more like small business, mom and pop kind of thing?
Yeah, because I have so many, they're small.
Okay.
We have, multiple teams that kind of manage, like we kind of try to filter, based off of what the company is into the separate categories. And so the one I'm on, we have the smaller accounts. So it can be hotels, restaurants, kind of smaller industrial businesses, stuff like that. And that's why, like myself and the people on my team that do the same role, we have so many accounts, because then you have the person on our team that handles Ford, and they handle just Ford.
Yeah.
And because they have a lot of accounts, but they're big accounts.
Okay.
And that's just, just handles that only. So
Okay. That makes sense. And that makes sense. Like it's just something that I don't know. I don't think about, like driving down the road. I live in Canton, Michigan, off of Ford Road, which is, by comparison around the rest of Michigan, it's pretty busy. And there's so many businesses. And I just don't think like, okay, each one of these businesses has to get their power electric from somewhere.
Yep.
And that kind of puts it into perspective. Like all of these probably have like a go-to person with DTE. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but DTE, when it comes to like where we get our power in Metro Detroit, they kind of have a monopoly, right? It's just like
it is a monopoly. It's the government controls it.
Okay.
They keep their eye on it and don't let it become like a full-on monopoly. But in a sense, it's DTE has in this Metro Detroit area, I don't know, probably 95% of the electric, and then there's some choice aspects or options out there. Consumers has a little bit, but I mean it's mainly DTE.
Yeah, when I was in a different city, I was paying part to consumers, part to DTE, and I think here in Canton we do all DTE. But yeah, that's interesting. So you said customer service and sales. So I had a question about sales. Now, with this operation, this reLENTless podcast, 6 Wins, I have to do all of this stuff. So like the lighting, the cameras, these microphones, the sound mixing, the video editing, the sitting here, obviously, the idea, like all of it, I have to do all this. And I would say I love it, but the part that I struggle with the most is like, you wouldn't think about it, but there is kind of a sales aspect when it comes to asking people to come on.
Yeah.
And I thank you so much for wanting to come on. So like, and we could talk about this more off the podcast, but I'm just curious, like in your experience with sales, is there any like kind of go-to principle or anything like that I can use? Cause I get a lot of like the same responses of people who are like kind of on the fence, like don't really want to do it. But is there anything like that in your experience, like helps sell, I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
I think having examples of, what they'd be looking at. So it, for me, it could be giving examples of, customers that I've, helped get an EV charger set up and the benefits that they've seen from that, or upgrading a facility's lighting to LEDs and then getting them some sort of savings on the back end because they did that. So I know for you, when we were talking about setting this up and doing this, you sent a couple examples of, the podcast that you've done over to me, and watching those like really helped make me more comfortable because it's not the most comfortable thing sitting down and just talking, in this kind of setting for some people. Yeah. And that definitely helps. So I think, having those examples and showing people like, hey, this is what I do, and I want to get you to do that. And then also just guilt them, make them feel really bad if they say no. Try that.
Like, I thought we were friends.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I get so excited about these ideas. I kind of obsess over them, but it's like this weird thing where like, if I float it out there and someone like either doesn't reply or doesn't fully commit, like, and this is my stuff. This is like something I got to work on. I'll like, my brain will kick into like ass kicking mode, and it'll be like, nobody wants to do it. That's because it's a stupid idea. Like, who would want to do that? And it's like, put yourself in their shoes. Like if somebody were to ask me to do their podcast, like, especially somebody, I mean, we know each other fairly well, but if somebody like that asked me, like, would I do it? It's like, man, I think it takes a special kind of person to like want to go outside the bounds of their normal day-to-day.
Yeah, their comfort zone.
Go do something that's uncomfortable. So it's like, man, if somebody were to ask me, I'd probably dance around it and be like, I don't think so. And I have gotten a lot of the responses from people are like, I don't know. I just don't think I'd have anything interesting to say or whatever. But I truly believe, and I'm not just making this up, I truly believe that everybody has interesting things to offer. Like, so here's just a random thing. I don't know. It made me think of this. What is your capacity for compliments? Like, are you good at receiving compliments? No?
Awful.
Can I hit you with one?
No.
I can't. Okay. All right. We could edit this out if you do it. Okay. So when we first met, I struggled to remember any person I've ever met that seemed so present. And like, I feel like anytime you talk to somebody or meet someone for the first time, there's a lot of buzzing going around in someone's head. There's a lot of like, I'm sitting here, but I only have 70% of this person's attention. Like, it's very clear. But when we met, like, I was like, man, there's something about this guy that like, I don't know if it was like a spiritual thing or just like a comfort in your own skin kind of thing. But I remember that. And so I just wanted to throw that your way. You have an aura about you, I think, as the kids are saying.
Aura?
I think it used to be called like moxie. Okay. I think the kids may be calling it aura now. Just like a comfort in where you are and what you're doing. And I've always had the impression that like when we're chatting, like you're there fully.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
It does. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think I work towards that because I know my mom is not like that. Oh. Like when we talk, we always joke about that. Talking with my mom, we can see her, like, it's tough for us to even get a word in. And then when we can see her through her face, like thinking about what she wants to say next instead of listening to a word that we're saying. So like there's been times I'm talking to her and I would just stop talking mid sentence to see if she picks up on it, and sometimes she doesn't.
Yeah.
So I think I appreciate the compliment. You know, I will take that compliment. Thank you.
Okay.
And but I think it's something I've experienced and I've kind of like put into my own learning because of that.
Nice. That's amazing. I had kind of an upbringing like that too. I always felt like my mom was always so sweet. She's still so sweet, but like there's always like a thing going on that she's like thinking about. Like you could ask her a question and there'll be like a 15-second delay before she answers. It's just like, slow down.
Yes.
Slow down. It's okay. But family. Speaking of family, you're married.
I am.
You're married. Cool. How long?
13 years.
13 years.
Let me make sure that's right. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. 13.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes.
So you're probably past this point, but I read recently that the first 5 years of marriage are a power struggle, and I noticed that a little bit because I'm 3 years in a couple of days actually as of this recording, and I'm not gonna really anyways. But I find that we've settled into our roles because like stuff around the house has to get done. And I found that if everybody has sort of like an expected task that's kind of their go-to, it helps. So usually I'll default to kitchen cleanup, like dishes, putting them away, dishwasher, all that stuff. And Emily is kind of like laundry.
Okay.
When it comes to chores in your house, do you guys just do you delegate like that, or you just kind of everybody does everything?
Yeah, it's more of all hands on, I would say. Anything outdoor, pretty much I do. Okay. So the lawn, you know, snow, stuff like that, leaves. I was just outside, you know, last night in the pitch black doing leaves. Nice. But that typically will fall to me. And then I do I do pretty much all of the cooking. The only time I don't do the cooking is when I'm not home. Okay. And then the big joke, but it typically happens, is she'll send me a picture of the kids eating either cereal or mac and cheese for dinner. That's so funny. Those are her go-tos. But because I do the cooking, like I do, you know, the shopping, because I want to get what I need for, you know, to cook for everybody. But then she will do all the dishes usually afterwards, after we finish eating and everything. And then laundry and other house stuff, it's kind of a split. So we've become, over the long years, a good balance, I would say. That's cool. Yeah, I feel like once you have that stuff locked in place, it's kind of, I don't want to say smooth sailing, because any marriage is going to have its strain, its rough points. Which I guess brings me into kids, because there's, I feel like an added level, like you up the difficulty when for me, when you introduce kids, because like not everybody always sees eye to eye on certain things. And you're a girl dad? I am. Right? Girl dad. Cool. You have two? Two. What are the ages? 11 and 9. 11 and 9. Okay. So both in the marriage and kids, you have more experience than I do. Julian's gonna be 6 in a couple of months. Okay. So I always say I know how to parent a 5-year-old, but I don't know the first thing about parenting a 9 or an 11-year-old. I'm not there yet. Gets easier, I would say. It does? Yeah. Okay. I mean, boys are, I know, completely different than girls. Yeah. That's why I was excited to have girls, especially for the, you know, probably about to the age that they're at now, because it's, you know, usually they're calmer and, you know, boys are jumping off of everything they can climb on, and, you know, I didn't know if I was ready for that, but. Yeah. But Julian's a madman. He gets into some trouble, and you know, if he grows up and listens, I always think about that. I'm like, I'm putting this out there. What if he grows up and listens? He'll know. He's a madman. He gets himself into some trouble. But we just went to his parent teacher conferences this past week, and he scored. Shout out to Julian, man. He scored in the 99th percentile in math. The kid is a wizard. And like, I knew something was different when we threw a math problem at him that looked like this. He's not even 6 yet. And we were like, say we're driving 50 miles an hour and we drive for 3 hours. How far have we gone? Okay. I just threw that as just like a joke. And 150 miles. I'm like, whoa. Wow. That's like a problem, like a math.
story problem.
Yeah,
You know what I
that you
mean?
get later in year.
Yeah, I don't know when they'll start introducing stuff like that, but yeah, so that was pretty cool. And yeah, it's being a dad's fun. Do your girls like show preference to either one of you? Had they gone through phases?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on, I think, the situation.
Okay.
I think I'm a little more understanding and caring with them, at times. And I would say I've always like joked with the fact, especially having like two girls, that, I'm obviously outnumbered and just immediately they're going to go to mom for stuff. So I had to work really hard over the years to get them to, want to come to me more than, my wife. But I mean, for me being a dad, especially to the two girls I have, it's just like, I almost feel like that's what I was like put here to do. Like, it's my by far favorite thing in the world. Like, even every day, just, going to pick up the kids from school or something just makes me like happy seeing them again. Like, I thought COVID, that was like one of the cool things, about COVID was having the opportunity to work from home and then be homeschooled for a year, because, you got the option for the 1 year to, send them to school or do the virtual learning. And we did the virtual learning. And since I was working from home and they were doing the virtual learning, I mean, I got, I don't know how many months that was, 15 months or something like that with them home every single day. And a lot of people I know complained about that with having their kids home. But I mean, for me, that was like 15 of the greatest months of my life, like being with them, because you figure most time you grow up, you have before COVID and everything, you went to work, you had your 9 to 5, they were in school, so you'd see them in the morning to get them ready, and then you would just see them in the evening after school and help them with homework, dinner, and then bed. And all that time in the middle, like, got that for a long time, and that's something that I will cherish.
Yeah, man, that warms my heart. I love hearing that. I am similar in that I really, really cherish the time. So let's get into some of this training that you currently do before we touch on the cold plunge and the stretching. So I know you do training for triathlons, right? What does a typical training regimen look like?
So once we'll hit a little after New Year, February, I'll start, I have a kind of a program that I followed, and it's just kind of in the beginning, first maybe month and a half or so, it's getting back into running, getting back into biking, and obviously it's got to be all indoors because I cannot stand the cold.
Yeah.
So if I'm doing it, like, I'm not running outside when it's 15 degrees out and you can't bike in the snow, really. So everything's indoors, and then there's a pool at this other gym that I go to, and I'll go there and swim maybe twice a week in the afternoons or something, just to kind of get moving. But honestly, it's not fun until you can get outside and do it.
Yeah.
You have to do it during the winter months to get in shape for it and be ready to log the miles outside when you need to. But swimming in a pool is awful. It's just so boring. It's just back and forth. There's no music. There's nothing to, like, I get so bored, and that's part of the thing is I hate the swimming part until I can get out into an open lake.
Yeah. When you're training, like not swimming, obviously, but on the bike or running, do you typically listen to music or podcast music?
Yeah, I always have headphones in. We'll listen to music. And then you're not supposed to. You can't, I know, specifically on the bike, actually when doing a triathlon. And they say you're not supposed to for running. So the first year I didn't. And then I saw all these people with headphones in. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to toss some headphones in for running. But yeah, once we get close to it, it's a couple weeks out. That's when I'll start, going out to the site where it's held, and I'll just do trial runs where, I'll swim for, the distance or half the distance, and then go to my car, do a transition into my bike stuff, go take off and, do a bike, and then come back, transition into a run, and just kind of get the feel. And I mean, the transition is a tough part. Getting a wetsuit off.
Yeah.
It's tough. And you sit there and look at, the time it took me to get out of the water, get to my transition site, take my wetsuit off, get my biking stuff on, and go. And you see the other people that did it in half the time. And I was like, well, right there is like 2 minutes of time, 2.5 minutes of time. So
yeah. What were you, I guess, what originally got you into exercise and fitness? Were you always into it like through high school and stuff?
No, I mean, I was kind of an athlete. Like, I played soccer my whole life, like decently competitive, nothing crazy. But played club for Livonia for a bunch of years. High school, played on our varsity team. Got a couple college offers, but it was
Okay.
for like Division III stuff, and it would have been really expensive. So I, kind of forego that and just went the regular college route. And so I always had a little bit of more meat on the bones
Okay.
growing up, even with playing. But I mean, all that training and stuff, I stayed in good shape. But then once I stopped it and I didn't have year-round training and camps and games and tournaments, and then I got introduced to this thing called beer in college, and I blew up pretty big.
Okay.
And just struggled for years to, really get back to where I was or be happy with, my body again. And finally, it was probably maybe close to 6 years ago or so, like finally, got back into exercising. It was always probably because the soccer was always more into cardio. I'd much rather than like lift a weight, just go run a couple miles. And then finally, though, got into lifting weights. And I think that was a big thing that helped me maintain and be consistent, because for years I would just kind of yo-yo with stuff and was never consistent. But, for 6 years now, I was probably tipped the scales like close to 250 at one point.
Okay.
And, I've been able to lose a good amount of that and keep it off over the years. And, it's just been consistency, and I'd say talking to the right people, knowing the right people. Obviously you mentioned Emily before, and I met her at the gym when it opened. I've been going to the Edge where she works since it opened, and over the years just kind of meeting the people there. And I think that's a big part of it too for people that are trying to get in shape. It's I know you don't want to spend too much money, but it's like health and exercise and learning how to do it right. It's one of those things that like you've got to talk to somebody who's a professional, because you can watch stuff on YouTube and social media and kind of pick up things here and there. But I mean, if you really want to do it right and you want to be consistent, you've got to work with somebody professionally.
Yeah, for sure. I totally echo that for sure. And it's been a little bit since I've been a consistent gym goer, just with my schedule right now. I'm a big P90X,
Home stuff,
Lift 4, Dig Deeper. Like I love the whole gang. The Tony Hortons, the Sean T's, the Joel Freeman, DDP. Shout out the former pro wrestler DDP Yoga. I love all that stuff, and I feel like I'm doing this program right now called Body Beast. Okay. Looking down, it's not working. No, I'm just kidding. But Emily always tells me I need to lift heavier weights, and I'm kind of on the cusp of considering getting back in the gym. But the thing is, I am responsible for dropping the kid off at school, and I can't like get to the gym, come back because he's here. I can't leave him alone.
Right.
So I use the time in the morning, and we were talking before we pushed record here about waking up early, and I'm up 4:30. I get my quiet time in the morning, and then I work out in the basement, do all the stuff before he even wakes up.
Yep.
So, if
I'm the same way. I'm a morning gym person. I'm there by, 5 a.m. on the weekdays. That way I can get my stuff done. I don't have to wait for anything, because I don't I just want to get in there, get what I need to done, and then get home, get the kids ready for school, and then, start my day.
Yeah, nice. What originally got me into working out was a breakup, actually. I too was a athlete growing up. A lot of baseball and basketball, but I never lifted weights. I was always a little afraid of it. It was intimidating. But then, freshman year of college, most of my buddies all went to the gym on a regular basis, and I was always afraid of it. I'm like, what are they going to think of me when I can't put up 85 pounds on the bench? I was always really, really skinny, still pretty skinny, but I was always afraid. But this girl I was dating in freshman year of college, she broke up with me, and I was just like, I need to do something. I was just kicking my own butt. So I went and worked out with those guys, and shout out my buddies who I've been friends with since like 5-6 years old, still friends to this day. They kind of walked me through everything, like how to do everything. And I felt, like you said, the community was so important for me, especially going in, because like, I felt like there was this like safety blanket. Like if these guys are judging me, whatever, like they're my buddies, that, it's like unconditional with them, but like they were like my safety blanket, because I was part of something, and it felt really good. But you answered one of my questions, and that's where you train for the swimming aspect. I didn't know you go to another gym. I thought you were exclusively Edge.
I would be, but I've been asking them to build me a pool, like just for me. I literally actually asked the general manager yesterday. I was like, "So when are you gonna build me that pool?" Because I, was joking about leaving and going to the other place I have a membership at strictly, which I would never do. But yeah, I had to. Well, the funny part about getting into the triathlon was, like I said, I with soccer I used to just like run a lot. I did lots of 5Ks, 10Ks, a couple half marathons, and then even did a full marathon, which was awful. I don't recommend that at all. Training was the full was so bad. Training was just so bad for that. But but then a couple months after I did that and playing an indoor soccer game, I tore all the ligaments in my knee.
Oof.
And so after I did the recovery and everything from that, I was like, well, like I like signing up for type of things and having a goal, something to look forward to. So I was like, but pounding the pavement for 15 miles isn't going to be good on the knee anymore. So I had to think of something else. And it was a New Year's Eve one year. And I just remember Michigan was getting their butts kicked in the playoff by Georgia.
Okay.
And we're at home, wife's already asleep. It's like, 11, wife's asleep, kids are asleep. I'm drinking bourbon by myself. And I get like an email from, this one company or organization that does runs and stuff like that was like, oh, at midnight, the cost for this triathlon is going to go up. You should sign up now. And there I am by myself, like I said, maybe one or two drinks deep. And I'm like, hell yeah, I should sign up for this now. Like, yeah, let's do it. And so I did it. And I woke up the next morning and was like, I don't know how to swim. I don't own a bike. And I just signed up for a triathlon. So I had to figure some stuff out. Yeah. So I know how to like not drown. I just didn't know how to like swim. Swim.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got a membership at this other gym that had a pool. I talked to a friend whose wife actually like teaches swimming. So I got a couple lessons from her and, went on just Craigslist and found a road bike and started pedaling away on that. And,
nice.
Done 3 of them now, and we'll do another one, at least one, probably this coming year.
Nice. Shout out Craig from Craigslist. I wonder how many like hookups that guy is responsible for. So I heard a stat recently that kind of ties in, and it made me sad, but I think we're on the up and up as a country. So it's like apparently 77% of guys between the age of 17 and 24 are unfit for the military. So that's not why, of course it's not why, but it's a big part of like, I get so much benefit from health related stuff and trying to apply it to my life. And by talking to people like you who know a thing or two and showing people who don't know the first thing, kind of trying to be, like take it in, but also pass it along. Yeah. But hearing things like that just makes me want to spread the word so much about like, okay, what helps me have the energy to, go out and live a productive life and help people and, whatever. And, I think if we're talking here and there's somebody, it's between the ages of 17 and 24 listening right now, and they are part of that 77% of people that are unfit to join the military, and maybe something you say clicks. Maybe you're like, you were up to what you said, 250 or whatever, and you just made this decision. I got broken up with, maybe something that we say clicks with somebody, and even if one person decides to go walk an extra 5,000 steps today, I'm like, hell yeah, because it's not like it's not a world where there's only a limited number of spaces. Anybody can improve in some way, you know, and I'm a big believer in that, and it's kind of why I started this whole thing. But I guess on that topic, I'm sure, of the 77%, I think 15% of it was strictly obesity related, but a big part of it too was mental health issues and stuff, like addictions, all that stuff. So, that's no joke either. But one thing that helps me, I guess as a segue, is nutrition. When I'm kind of dialed into what I'm eating on a consistent basis, it's not even close about how I look in my body. It's more so how I feel in my body and how my thinking is. Like if I eat like shit for 3 days, just, straight up fast food, I don't think the same way. Like I get sad, I get anxious, I'm worried. I build resentment easier, like all these things. And so with your nutrition, I would imagine prepping for a triathlon or, lifting, anything like that, you would have to be at least somewhat conscientious of what you're eating. What is your, I guess, day-to-day, I hate the word diet. I like the word nutrition because diet to me,
it's lifestyle.
Exactly.
So that's the trigger that clicked years ago when it came to nutrition. And my wife, is big with that too. She does the home video, we work out stuff every morning. And I think partially because, she is there to eat whatever I make, since like I said, I do all the cooking and everything. It's, she's been great with her diet too, because, I'm just making bulk of chicken and rice and veggies and salmon or, steak, whatever, protein it is. But realizing that it's not diet, like, oh, for 3 months I want to do this, like, type of thing. No, it's just make little changes from the beginning and then keep kind of incorporating new ones. And it really, I think, flipped a switch in our minds, or I know mine, when I realized like what I'm eating is not just like eating because I'm hungry. It's eating because I need fuel for the day. I have not eaten in 3 hours and I'm starting to feel it. I need to refuel my body, or I had a big workout, I need to refuel my body afterwards. And so I mean that was just a big part of it. But yeah, we're I track a lot of stuff now. I have with Emily's help from the gym, she's setting my macros. That was huge. Cool. Years ago when we started talking nutrition.
Do you know them offhand, like what you try to stay in the?
Yeah, like right now, I'm at probably around like 2,600 calories a day. Okay. And then my carbs are, I don't know, 45%, my protein's 35%, and then the rest is fats.
Yeah.
And I've got a scale at home, and like I said, I make just a ton of either some sort of protein at a time, and rice cooker to make a bunch of rice, or some sort of potato and oatmeal, things like that, and just measure it all out. It doesn't take long at all. It's not difficult, and just kind of keep an eye on it, tracking. And then you got to have your days where you're craving something. You just have to have it. I mean, I already know tomorrow I'm going to eat so much Buddy's pizza. Like
nice.
That is the plan for me. That's one of my, vices right there, is Buddy's pizza. And I said it like 3 days ago. I'm like, I'm craving this. I was like, I need it Sunday. Like, it's going to happen.
So this is cheat meal or any special occasion?
No, just cheat meal type of thing.
I guess cheat meal is special occasion in itself, right? Yeah, I would say pizza is right at the top of my list. I also have a hell of a sweet tooth, so any dessert, like I will totally indulge in on my cheat days, like cake and ice cream and pie and any sort of sweets. Like I'm a sucker for all of it, but I do keep it pretty disciplined. And it's usually 7 days a week. But I would say maybe every other week I get the hankering to really just like go all out, and I'll like let up. But what I've been trying to do is being more intentional with those cheat meals. And it's not a cheat day. It's not like a get out of jail free card. It's not like, I don't like feeling like I'm being restricted the other 6 days.
Right.
So I will be dialed in. It sounds like my macros, which for anyone who doesn't know, we say the word macros, macronutrients, their food is made up of 3 basic things in the world of macronutrients, and it's proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. I hate the myth that carbs are the enemy.
Yeah, it's not true.
But I will say carbs can be difficult for some, including myself, because they're like the least satiating, but they usually taste the best for me. So if I'm on a hunt for, if I'm looking at food as just strictly flavor and like the mouth pleasure that I get from it, carbohydrates are usually really hard for me to rein it in. So I'm the same way. It helps for me to log it on the MyFitnessPal app, which even the free version does what I need it to do. Just put it in, and then I usually eat pretty much the same things most of the time. So all the stuff is like pre-saved. So like breakfast, I don't have to put in everything individually. I just swipe and it lets me add what I had the day before.
Yeah.
So just like boom, 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 done. And usually if I'm having, like, if I'm going over to like a family gathering where I know like, oh, they're going to be doing pizza, like that doesn't necessarily have to be like, all right, I throw in my cards, I give up, I'm having 19 slices of pizza. What I can do, or what I usually do, and I don't even know if this is neurotic of me, but I'll usually like front load all of my nutrition and then leave some space for a little indulgence.
Yeah.
Like, just because you're indulging, like, it doesn't have to be a whole hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars. I can have 2 or 3 slices, and as long as I am mindful of the other stuff I'm doing that day, like, it can fit right in.
So yeah, I try to, like, similar to that, I'll try to like pick and choose my battles in a sense. So like, you know, today we're getting together this afternoon with some friends for a birthday, and you know, they're going to get pizza, they're going to get Little Caesars. And so I pick and choose my battles when it comes to pizza. It's like, I'm not going to eat Little Caesars.
Yeah.
So I'll plan ahead, and I'll make sure to eat a meal before we go over there. I might have like a slice there if it like one of them does look really good, and you know, or a breadstick type of thing, just to have a little something, and then, you know, have my meal at home when we get back. And you know, same thing in the summer is really hard. You have so many like barbecues and stuff like that you know, it's kind of picking and choosing the battles. Like I love a good burger, but I would much rather, instead of eating one of the like frozen patty greasy burgers that come from Meijer or Costco or wherever, I'd much rather get, you know, even like a Culver's burger that is really good, or some sort of, you know, or make my own, like, you know, make bison burgers at home. Like I'd much rather have a burger that way than have one of those. So it's kind of just planning ahead, and being sometimes that person that's like at the family barbecue eating, you know, ate before you got there, and eating a plate of, you know, veggies and some fruit and maybe a little pasta salad or something. But, you know, foregoing those ones that sometimes, you know, like, you know, now with the way I eat and everything, if I have one of those, you know, 1 or 2 of those greasy burgers at some sort of, you know, get together, I mean, the next day my stomach is like kind of wrecked a little bit.
Yes. There is such thing as a food hangover.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm much more sensitive to it now. I don't know if it's age or just being dialed in most of the time and feeling it, like actually feeling it. But yeah, that was one thing that was tricky for me. This nutrition thing has been such a long, ongoing, never-ending process. Like when I first stopped drinking, I, you know, unconsciously needed to fill it with something. So I filled it with food. Like I ran quite a bit, but I also ate like garbage. Like I ate just plates of nachos. Like, have you ever seen the movie Step Brothers?
Oh yeah.
You know how he microwaves that huge plate? That was me every single night, like right before bed. And I'm like gaining all this weight, and I'm like, what's going on? I'm running. This can't be right. Yeah. It's like 22, 23. So like I didn't quite get to 250, but I was in like the early twos, like 205, 207, 210, I think was my highest. But yeah, that's, you know, and I've tried every fad diet under the sun. I was vegan for a little bit, vegetarian. I've done the keto. I've done the Whole30. I've done paleo. You know, and I'm sure there's a bunch that I'm not even remembering. What I haven't ever tried, that just for the fun of this podcast, I will probably try here within the next few months, is just strictly carnivore.
I was about to say carnivore seems like the one you haven't mentioned.
That's the one I haven't tried. Now, the strictest I've gotten was a couple of years ago, before Emily and I went on a trip to Mexico. We limited it to meat, fruit, and veggies. Ate nothing other than meat, fruit, and vegetables. And to be honest, I felt fantastic, but I didn't feel like it was sustainable. I needed a little more like sources of nutrition,
some substance.
I needed some substance. Like now I eat quite a bit of like Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, rice, sweet potato, all this stuff. Like I need a little variety, but I think I can do, you know, the challenges here are 40 days, and I think I can do carnivore for 40 days. I just got to mentally prep for it and probably do some like, not just like mental prep, but I probably got to like write stuff down, like with like, what do you eat for breakfast? Can you just do all eggs, eggs and bacon, eggs and sausage? Does sausage count? Like, can you do dairy? So I got a little research to do when it comes to that. But speaking of the 40-day challenges, what we're here for is to talk a bit about the 40-day challenge that you're going to undergo. And I wanted to start with the cold plunge because I am so interested in this. And yeah, I will just start by asking, do you cold plunge now?
Yes.
Okay.
So it was Probably about a year ago, I was researching them and, you know, reading the benefits for your joints and your muscles for recovery. And because I mean, that's a big thing now is, you know, getting up at, you know, my age. I don't feel the same. It's, you know, tougher to recover and everything hurts more in the mornings and stuff like that.
And how old are you again?
37.
37.
Yeah.
Me too.
So, and then, you know, with the knee like that, you know, a lot of times will still bring little problems here and there. And I saw a lot of people doing this and read about the benefits. And I was like, you know what, let me look into this. Found, you know, nothing crazy. It was like $70 or $80 on Amazon, just a little like pop-up one, you know, has a couple posts that, you know, hold it in place.
Okay.
And, you know, I started doing it, like I said, about a year ago and did it consistently for a while. And then I'd say the summer kind of fell off because part of it is just really tough in the summer to keep it cold. Like I'd have to refill it every morning. I'd throw like maybe 3 or 4 like large bags of ice in it, and the ice would melt immediately, and I couldn't get it below, you know, 60 degrees, which really then you're just sitting in like a little cold pool.
Yeah.
Not as many benefits.
Yeah. So that was my next question. So, well, you answered one of them. You bought it off Amazon. It was like $80. That's super good to hear because I've done some poking around, and to know that those work is great. So you keep it outside?
Yep. So I have it out on my patio. Okay. And so I did start like this week again with it. I hadn't used it in quite a, you know, a couple months because like I said, the summer was kind of tough with keeping it cold. So I just wasn't using it. But this past week started with it again, cleaned it out good, filled it up. And with the temperatures right now, it's pretty good. I don't have to, like I bought even these kind of rubber bricks that will make ice. So you just fill them with water, throw them in the freezer, and I would throw those in, you know, in the summer and stuff. But right now, I don't even like, will throw them in, but I don't even need to use them because I think they always say like the best temperatures are around like between anywhere from like 35 degrees to like 50 degrees. And with the temperatures outside, and since it's so small, whatever the air temp is, you're pretty much getting the cold plunge to that temperature. So I've been consistent this week at about 45 degrees when I'm getting in it.
Nice.
So
that's chilly. I do the cold showers, and I take it down to as cold as it'll go in there, but I still feel like I'm not quite getting the full benefit. I watch guys that have like those big, probably like thousands of dollars, like ice baths or cold plunge, whatever. And, you know, they'll be able to keep it at a consistent like 33, 34 degrees. And I watch them do it. I'm like, I would like to level up to there some point, but I think doing it with you said like $80, that's probably my next step. Like I want to jump on the train.
That's all I need. I can fit in, you know, the whole thing, you know, you're kind of like in a squat position. So it's not maybe the most comfortable, like as opposed to the ones you see, people using where they're like laying in them nicely and like almost like a lounge chair, you know, set up. But no, it does the trick. That's for sure.
Cool. And when do you do it in the day?
So typically I will do it when I get home from the gym in the mornings. So I feel like that's one of the better parts or times to probably do it is everything's, you know, I just got done working out some sort of, you know, body part. And also I am warm going into it, which is a lot easier than being cold and then going into it also. So that I've done that a few times, like in the evenings, just take the dog for a walk and then come back and be like, oh, I'm going to go in it for 5 more minutes. But I'm kind of chilly going into it, and then that's a little rough.
Yeah, I was thinking because I have in my basement I have like a tent sauna. It was like $400, but it's an infrared. It only gets up to, I would say, 120, which is plenty to work up a really good sweat. Yeah, and I think the infrared has some benefits too. Again, my long-term goal is to get one of the traditional like charcoal saunas that get up to like 170, 180. Yeah. But I'm thinking since there's a drain down there, I almost want to just tag team them. And like, as soon as I get out of the sauna, it's easier, but to get right in and I'll have to get you'll have to send me a link to those ice packs that you were saying. Cause I feel like if I keep in the basement, but I keep ice on hand, it's another tough part. I'm like, do I got to go to the gas station and buy a 20-pound bag of ice every single day? So I'll have to figure that out, but yes, my thought process is I will soon be consistent.
The hot cold method there. Like
Yeah.
that's I think the ultimate like goal with that, or like, you know, that a lot of people want to achieve, because that's, you know, I know that's big in like Scandinavia area, where it's, you know, they constantly are doing the sauna to the, you know, their freezing cold water or their ice bath, and they have spas that are big into that. So
Yeah, it's got tremendous benefits. I think we could sit here for hours rattling off the benefits. I'd probably have to pull up some articles because offhand, I know just like with like muscle recovery and stuff like you're saying, like joints, it helps, but like mentally, man, it cannot be understated. In fact, so Huberman, you know, Andrew Huberman, Dr. Andrew, he's got a podcast. He's like a neuroscientist from Stanford. You probably came across, he's all over social media and YouTube and stuff, but he was doing an interview, and there's like recent studies, and this applies to everything, not just cold plunge, but they found a brain structure called, and I committed this to memory just because I wanted to sound smart, the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. And, you know, what happens is when you do things that you don't want to do, this part of the brain, it grows.
Okay.
So it's like a real tangible thing that like when we push ourselves to do things, particularly that we don't want to do. And I find that so fascinating. And funny enough, the person that he was interviewing when he was talking about this was David Goggins. Are you familiar with Dave? And it's just like, he is the ultimate example of like doing things that you do not want to do. The guy ran, you know, 8 100-mile races, 8 weekends in a row. And it's like, to be able to push yourself that much, he's probably got one that like, he's probably, if you look, there's probably like a
grown.
It's grown. But I think there's not only like scientific tangible evidence now, there's a lot of anecdotal evidence in my life where like, I don't want to do something, and then I do it. Like I force myself to do it. Like there's like the two voices in your head. There's the one that's like coming up with the excuses and the reasons, like it's cold, I'll do it tomorrow, it's uncomfortable. But if you can get that other voice to be like just a little stronger, and then just force yourself into it. I'll do that with the cold shower sometimes, where like I'll feel like there's literally 2 of me inside, and there's the one that's like, don't go in.
Turn the knob.
Yes, turn the knob, get out. But yeah, so I would, you know, doing the cold plunge is like a perfect example.
Yeah, it does suck. Like it is not fun. But I've yet to, I think, like get out of it afterwards, and once I dry off, be like, oh, I regret going in. Like it's always like I feel better, I feel a little refreshed, like, you know, kind of almost like you know, clean some, you know, off mentally or type of thing. And I mean, yeah, sometimes I'll throw in, you know, the AirPods and just kind of, you know, listen to something to ease my mind, or you know, do like a little meditation while in there, and it's just mind over, you know, body type of thing. Yeah. And I mean, I've felt the benefits, you know, already doing it, like in the past, you know, or like last year when I started doing it, there'd be days I'd go to the gym in the morning and do legs, and then in the afternoon I'd go for a run. And if I didn't like ice bath after each, like, you know, before I had it, the next morning I'd wake up and my back would be just toast, my knee would hurt, like joints would be really sore. And I really did feel like after ice bathing after each of those, and then waking up the next morning, like I felt refreshed, like everything felt really good, like I could go for a run again type of thing. And you know, I just never had felt that before, like especially over the last, you know, 5 years or so. The body starts, you know, having a few more creaks in the morning. And I definitely, you know, this is a good way to segue into stretching. But I find that when I stretch before bed, I do it's called yin yoga, that I discovered on, you know, in the plethora of exercises there are in the Beachbody online streaming. It's where like P90X is housed and all that stuff. I found one called yin yoga, and what it is it's about 20 minutes, maybe 8 to 10 different poses, but you hold them for an extended period of time, like 2 to 3 minutes each. And I find when I do that before bed, I lay down and there are 0 aches and pains. It's like I have like a little soft cushion around my body, because it, you know, has some serious benefits. Like Chinese medicine, it's a little hokey pokey for me, but it says like we actually store energy in the body, and like
whatever happens in your day, like you kind of hold it in your body, not just your brain, but in your body. Like, so you had a rough interaction or whatever, like there are places in our body we're holding it. So the idea is by really, really stretching out these different areas and holding them for extended period of time, it like releases some of that energy.
Okay.
Just kind of interesting. It's kind of like the acupuncture theories where they're like redirecting it. But yeah, it helps me out a lot. So the second part of your 40-day challenge, not just cold plunge, but stretching.
Yeah.
What kind of stretching and like how long would you say you're going to do it for?
So I want to do like 10-minute stretching, per day. The Zen Yen yoga you were talking about, I'm gonna like look that up, and because I've been trying to figure out like different things to do with either it's gonna be a 10-minute yoga session or just a 10-minute stretching session or something like that, either in the evening, and I still haven't figured out if it's gonna be evening or mornings, or it might be maybe more than one time of the day depending on how it feels. But I've never been a good warm-up person. I'm always just like, as soon as I'm at the gym, it's like, all right, let's start going at it. It's right away, no warm-up like type thing. I always be like that when I go for runs. It's like no stretching, no jumping rope or doing anything beforehand, just like put the shoes on and go. And I think everything hurts more after doing it that way. So I think between that and also like once I hurt my knee, I stopped playing soccer, I got much more into golf. And golf is a big flexibility type thing. You see these golfers online and that I follow and stuff, and the stretching that they do and everything is like kind of eye-opening. It's like the flexibility aspect of it. And so in trying to become a little better of a golfer over the off season here, along with just hitting balls into a net in my garage, I want to start stretching more to get a little more flexible, so I can turn a little more easily into stuff. So
yeah, nice. So golf is one thing that for me hasn't stuck, but all my buddies golf, and I actually use it as like a bargaining chip with Emily. Like whenever it's never like I need to convince her of anything, but like if I ever need to make a purchase or leave the house for a little bit, hanging out with friends, whatever it is, I'm like, I've used the fact like you're lucky I don't golf because how much money and time we're saving that I don't golf. But I think I've golfed probably less than 30 times in my entire life, and I just never reached the point where it sank its fangs into me. It seems like some of my buddies are just like every single week while the weather permits. It's weekly, it's twice a week, maybe 3 times a week. They're always looking, and I'm
I have the benefit that like my wife golfs too.
Oh, sweet.
So like when COVID hit, that was when she really got back into it. She played a little before, but not like much. But then when everything was closed in that spring and summer, our dates were going and playing 9 holes. So we would do that like weekly, and then we end up getting into a couples league together that we play in. So like I have that benefit that I play in my own league, I play in a couples league, and then I'm the one every other weekend still trying to get out and do the 18-hole round for 4 to 5 hours. But
that's cool. I enjoy it. I just haven't like I said, it hasn't stuck. But I would say other than golf, do you have any recommendations? Could be a book, could be a movie, could be in life, could be health related, non-health related. Anything that you think benefits you in your life that could benefit other people in theirs?
I'm unfortunately, that's when I do like my New Year's resolutions, I always put, a couple number of, books on there. And it's one thing I always fail with. Like I've never been, and my wife's not either. Like somehow our kids are readers. So I'm blessed that they're into it and they'll sit there and read a book forever. But we've just never been big into reading, even like shows and stuff. It takes a lot for me to get into a show. Like I have coworkers that give me a list of shows to start watching, and like even the other night, like I had a couple hours to myself, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll start one of these shows. And then I was like, or a rerun episode of The Office that I've seen 12 times is on Comedy Central. I'm just gonna watch that, like type of thing. So
it's certainty. It's like I know Michael Scott's gonna make you laugh.
So I mean, as far as kind of a recommendation, it's kind of going back to what I was saying about like with health and fitness, of getting talking to a trainer and talking to a professional. Honestly, with golf, the same thing. I've benefited that my best friend growing up is now a PGA teaching professional.
Wow.
So I get lessons from him,
Oh,
and
dang.
I mean, it's little things like, you can go, like I said, just like working out, you can go on, YouTube and social media, Instagram, watch reels of people's swings and coaches on there. You got to get a professional in front of you teaching you. And I mean, it's a little more of an investment, but I mean, if you have something like that, golf or fitness or whatever that you want to get better at, you got to talk to a professional.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
shout out Andrew Dotson Golf Academy if anybody's looking. So
yeah, Andrew Dotson Golf Academy. That's awesome. Yeah, that's super cool. I'll hit him up. I need some help with my golf game. But yeah, recommendations. I bounce back and forth between watching a show consistently. Right now, we're watching a show called Yellowstone that we're almost caught up with. But in terms of drama, it's up there with like my favorite shows of all time, which probably like Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones. Like it's really, really good. But recommendations as far as life, I had this thing right here, and whether they know it or not, they are going to sponsor this podcast very soon. I've reached out to their marketing team, but this stuff is a game changer. So Nordic Naturals omega-3 fish oils. I was introduced to this stuff when I went to Iceland, and I would just take a shot of it at the breakfast buffet, not really thinking much of it. But then I found some research that showed that 1,000 EPA, like fish oil is one thing, but when you break down the science of it, there's an ingredient in the fish oil. There's EPA and DHA. EPA is a very long science term that I can't even pronounce. Isopethanoic acid.
Nailed it.
Yeah. But the reading said we should all be shooting for 1,000 milligrams a day, which I definitely don't get through normal nutrition. That being said, I was talking with my buddy recently. He's actually my cousin, but good buddy. Shout out Joey. We were talking about it, or we were chatting about it in our group chat, and 1,000 milligrams is tough to get in your nutrition, but it's only like 5 or 6 ounces of salmon. So if you're eating 5 or 6 ounces of salmon per day, you don't need this stuff. But I don't. I eat salmon on occasion, and I'm sure there's other foods like fish that help. But I've been taking like a 5 milliliter syringe. You know those little plastic syringes that comes with like children's Tylenol. So I'll just tinker with it. I'll squeeze a shot of this in my mouth, 5 milliliters, and I've been doing it consistently for about 4 or 5 weeks now. But the mental benefits are astounding. Like I've been diagnosed, which I'm sure so I hate even everybody's got anxiety nowadays, but the psychiatrist diagnosed me with generalized anxiety disorder. They had me on medicine. I took medicine for a while, like the Lexapro and the Zoloft. Yeah. They're fine, but other than that, I didn't like the side effects that I got, so I stopped taking it. But other than that, there's been very few things, if any, that have quieted my brain like this stuff right here. There's like a soft, cushy, or it's like the best way I could describe it is like usually when my thoughts are coming at me, there's like they're wrapped in like a hard concrete, and it like they can kind of hurt in a way, but this kind of wraps them in like a foam, so they're coming at me, but they don't all seem so like daunting and hurtful. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does.
I don't know. I got a weird brain. So the second to last thing I wanted to touch on before I reveal to you something I teased at the beginning of our conversation here. Question I have that I end every podcast with. Was there anything that is there anything that we didn't get to today that you were hoping to touch on or talk about?
I don't think so.
Okay, cool. I always want to make sure I add that.
Yeah.
That is a shout out to a fellow by the name of Dan Harris. He has a podcast called 10% Happier, and he always ends his podcast with that question. I was like, I'm going to steal that, Mr. Dan Harris, because it's a fantastic way to go out. But here's my commitment to you. You're doing me a huge favor by coming on this podcast. I thank you, Chris. And as a token of appreciation back to you, if you are able to complete your 40-day challenge successfully, and we'll have you back on in 40 or so days, any item from the Edge Fitness Nutrition Store,
Ooh.
it's on me.
Oh.
So they have a plethora of pre-workouts, protein powders, creatine, fish oil, supplements, all this stuff. So any item, it's on me as a thank you for coming on.
All right. Get that employee discount too. So.
Well, we will. But still,
Still.
as a favor.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, everybody.